What's going on, everybody? Thank you guys for being here with me today. So I'm gonna give you guys a tour of the garden. It's now fall. It's looking like a forest out here, and winter is quickly approaching where I am. So we're actually expected to see our first frost date next Saturday. All right, so we're gonna be looking at about 33 degrees, and then the following night is gonna be 31 degrees, right? So we're gonna have our first frost date. It's looking like a week or two before, our calendar date. So that's the first thing. So things are really thriving out here, especially the kale, the collards. But we're gonna take a look at what we got here. So just directly below, you can see we've got a pumpkin growing here. And I actually chopped that off the vine. I'm gonna let it sit and let the pests get to it, because as you can see, it looks like they've already gotten into it, and there's nothing we really can do with that. But this entire section here is dedicated to pumpkin, and it's not really looking good for pumpkin this year. This is probably the worst year I've had. But you can see we've got a nice squash growing here. It's pretty nice size. Got another variety of a pumpkin that looks like growing there. And as we make our way around here, you see we've got another squash growing here. So it's been a good year for squash, it looks like, so far. We've got more squash growing over by the collards. And so let's make our way over there. Now, last year I would say was my best year as far as pumpkins growth, I'm sorry. And we had some really massive sized pumpkins. And as we're approaching that frost, it looks like it's game over for the pumpkin season. All right, so we're on the southeast part of the garden here, and as you can see, we've got another pumpkin vine growing here. I'm hoping we'll get something good before the Halloween kicks in. All right, so you can see we've got our okra here, and we have the red burgundy okra growing in there. And then right next to it, we've got our crimson okra growing here. All right, so we'll take a deeper look at this plant here. It's looking pretty good for okra. And again, I'm not that tall of a guy, maybe about 5'7", and it looks like this okra is maybe about, I don't know, 6'4". So the okra will grow pretty good, and they can handle, frost, or at least where I am in grow zone 5B, all the way up until maybe about November-ish, late November. Then the plants will start to die off. Now, if I have them mulched, they can make it all the way to December. So it just depends on how I decide to kind of take care of them. Now, right next to the okra, we have basil. All right, and this basil is probably about 4 feet tall. You can see the basil is starting to go to seed here. You can see it's starting to flower, and what will happen is throughout the winter the seeds will fall down, and then they'll start to pop back up below. Okay, but I think that I'm gonna take the basil maybe next week, bring it inside, use what we got, for the remainder of, this growing season. Spring will grow some more, maybe grow some more in the greenhouse, but that's normally how we do our basil. Now, right next to the basil, you can see we've got the collards growing here. All right. Now, just below, we did an experiment to grow pumpkin in the cells here, and they're not doing that good. Just an experiment. You see they're flowering, but they didn't do good growing in the cells. So obviously, we'll have to, grow them in a much larger area. But all right, so we got the kale growing here, looking good. They always thrive this time of the year. We got artichoke growing in here, hoping to get something. And the artichoke are actually doing good in the cells. So they're growing in these small cells here. And look at the size of them. So those are doing good. Now the collards, we've been growing these plants here since maybe we started them in sales maybe in February. So we're now in October. So we're about what, 8 months in or so. Well, seven to be exact. And we can just see the size of these collards. So look at the size of them. So I'm gonna put it in the wide angle, and I'm gonna sit in between, and we can compare the collards to myself. You can see how big they are. Look at that. Look how big these collards are. Massive. Now, when we started the season off, we had about maybe 8 collard plants out here. We had about maybe 8 cabbages, and we've still been eating on those cabbages. And what I decided to do was thin them out, just go 2 plants to kind of, get us through the rest of the growing season, for the holidays to be exact. So, family members may want some collards, for, Thanksgiving or, Christmas and whatever other reason they would need them for. But right next to the collards, we have, can you guys guess what this is? They're looking good, aren't they? You still guessing? Celery. So this celery is looking good. We'll zoom it back in so you guys can get a deeper look. Look at that celery. So we like to really eat soups. And this celery is gonna take us throughout the entire winter. Look at this celery here. Now, what I've noticed with the celery is celery does not really like really hot weather. So the celery really struggled through the summer. Now, if you guys know anything about Indiana, we are extreme. So it's extremely hot or it's extremely cold. So we're one of the hottest places to be in the summer, but then we're one of the coldest places to be. So we can easily get down to, -15, -20, but then we can easily hit 100 degrees. So that's the kind of weather you get when you're in the Midwest. So one of the roughest places you can live either way. Now, on the other side of the celery, we've got peppers growing here. Let's see if we can find a pepper. Look like there's one right there. We got more growing in here. We got one growing there. And now, what I'm gonna do with those peppers is overwinter them. And I actually tried to overwinter some last year, and the aphids really got a hold to them and broke them all the way down. So I'm hoping to have better success this year with overwintering my peppers. Now, just below the peppers, we do have pumpkin growing intercropped with the peppers, and on the other side of the celery, we have pumpkin growing there as well. Okay, so right next to the pumpkin in this section, we have more kale growing here, and I can't wait to eat those this winter. You can also see we've got cherry tomatoes growing in here. Now, next to the kale and the cherry tomatoes, we have Swiss chard growing in here. You can see the pests have gotten to them. And then we've got Brussels sprouts growing in here. We've got more tomato growing in here, tomato that I didn't plant. So we've been dealing with chipmunks this year, and they pretty much destroyed our garden, maybe left us with maybe 60%. Ideally, we know that about 10 to 20% is going to go towards pests, but these chipmunks they're a piece of work, I'll tell you that. Now, just below this entire section here is going to be all lettuce all throughout this bed here. So we got some work to do there. back here, it looks like we got some kind of berries growing here. I didn't plant those, but I got a lot of work to do. So we got a lot of work to do here, a lot of weeding to do. And back here, you can see we've got herbs growing. All right, so we've got parsley growing there. We've got spearmint kind of going dormant here. We've got mint going dormant there. We got sage growing there. Now this sage, this is our second year, so we're going into our third year with that one, and it's been the most productive for us. Now here, you can see we've got cabbage moths all on the kale. All right, so I'm gonna just let them have that, and I'm gonna be happy with the kale we got on the other side. We've got lemon balm growing here. We've got more mint going dormant here, and they may have a little pop just before winter kicks in. More sage. We got chives growing in here, and then you can see we've got oregano growing all throughout this section here. Now when it comes to oregano is very invasive. So with that maybe 2 square foot area there, next year I would suspect it'll probably be about a 6 foot area square foot. So be very careful where you plant your oregano because they are invasive. It's a good thing to, you know, put them in an area where they can be contained, because if not, then guess what's going to happen? They'll take over the entire garden, just like strawberries will too. So you can see we got our apple tree going dormant here, another apple tree right next to it, and then our 2 peach trees growing there. Okay, now I would put those trees in the ground, but I think we'll probably be moving soon. Otherwise they would be in the ground. Now right next to us here are jalapeno peppers. This looks like a nice one here. The other ones will look a little overripe, so what I'll do is take the seeds for next year. Now here we've got ourselves some purple California bell peppers. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at our strawberry section. Now just below is our strawberry patch. Okay, now the chipmunks really got into these berries this year, but they've been kind of disappearing. So you can see we got a few strawberries here. Looks like some pests have gotten to them. So yeah, this is our strawberry section. Now don't get me wrong, I still got to eat a lot of the strawberries. So at least they left me with something. Now just below, this is our asparagus. We got 2 asparagus buckets. What I'm doing is letting the roots really get established throughout the rest of this season, and then we'll come back next year. Now let's show you what the chipmunks have done. So they have seeds scattered all over the garden. You can see there's onion growing here in the rocks, onion growing there in the rocks, onion growing all over here. All right, onion over here. So you can see the kind of damage they've done. Now this is the east side of the house, right? So the east side has a cell block all along the house as well. So we've got Swiss chard, we've got peppers, more peppers, we've got kale growing in here, more peppers. Now this is the chipmunks doing. So this is a cherry tomato plant. I didn't plant this. They moved seeds, like I said, all over the garden. We've got more curly kale here. We've got red Russian kale growing here. And I'm interested how these will do, if they'll survive the winter or not. They should. Swiss chard. We've got parsley, curly parsley. We got thyme, more curly parsley, peppers. We've got lettuce that have gone to seed, and I'm gonna do an entire winter garden in the greenhouse. I'll probably start that next week. It's gonna be full of lettuce, full of spinach. Okay, so you can see we got more Swiss chard here. We've got rhubarb growing right next to the Swiss chard. And now I have 2 buckets full of cherry tomatoes. So just below here, you can see we got cherry tomatoes. Now, our 2-year-old son, he comes out here every day. He goes right to that section and he starts eating all the cherry tomatoes. So those are his specifically. That way he doesn't go out and destroys everybody else's tomatoes. So he's got his own section. Now, let's go to the west side of the house, which is where we have our greenhouse. Now, this greenhouse used to be a shed. So what I've done is I spent maybe a couple weeks transitioning it into a greenhouse, and this is how it looks. Excuse the mess. We've had storms come kind of shake a lot of things up, so let's take a look inside. All right, so inside you can see we've got a mamey tree here, we've got pineapple growing here, we've got a banana here, another banana there, and a banana there. Now you can see we have shelving up in here. We'll have a shelf over here as well. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn that into basically a sections of, like I said, of salad. So you're gonna have different types of lettuce, different types of spinach in there, and we'll just kind of take it from there. Now the funny thing is, this greenhouse is pretty warm in here. It's pretty insulated. We've got a heater in here. So the heater in this back section here is going to turn on every time it goes below 60 degrees. So that way it's not going to be frosty in here, and these trees will definitely survive. Now, let's show you more of the chipmunks doing. So just below, you can see we have a tomato plant, and it's thriving. And guess what? It's growing through the rocks. Guess who planted those seeds? You got it, the chipmunks. Right next to the greenhouse, we've got a collard plant growing here, and it looks like the cabbage moths decimated that. It is growing through the rocks. Yep, guess who planted those? The chipmunks. So you can see the damage that they've done. Now, I'm not complaining with some of the things they planted, but that's just an example to show you how much they really wreaked havoc and just kind of spread things out and taking a lot of food. But again, that comes with gardening. You're going to have to deal with some kind of pest depending on where you are. Now let's go to the northeast part of the garden. All right, so this is another little pumpkin patch here. No pumpkins have popped up yet, but we'll see how that turns out. Now in the warm months, this is where we have our banana plants here, taking them out over the last few weeks just because we've been getting so cold. So you can see we have lettuce, different varieties of lettuce in here. We've got mustards growing back here. We've got different types of greenery growing here. We've got radishes growing in here. We know that. We can see the red stem on them. Look at this red variety of lettuce growing here. That's gonna be nice. All right, so all the way down we got mustards growing back there, and then in this section here we've got arugula. And I'll start to space these out, thin them out maybe this week. We've got spinach starting to pop up, and you guys know it's got to be cool out for spinach to pop up. So is this a, nah, I thought that was a tomato plant, but That's the northeast part of the house. Now, gonna take you inside so you can see how the bigger bananas are doing. And I'm gonna be working on a section maybe on this side of the house where I can house them, because they've outgrown even the house. And on our first floor, our ceilings are about 9 feet tall, and I'm gonna show you just how tall the plants are. So they're not gonna last this winter in here. So either I gotta build something like I'm planning on doing, or I'm gonna have to ship them to my cousin. He actually works for a plant company. He says I can ship it up there and they'll take care of it throughout the winter. But let's go ahead and take a look at the bananas in the house. Sorry, we're trying to get this door unlocked. So as you can see, the bananas are basically at the ceiling. The one in the back has no more room left to grow. So that's kind of the dilemma we're facing there. Okay, so the last thing I want to show you guys, also another section where we'll be growing lettuce and spinach, is here. So this is another mini greenhouse we have here. It did really well growing things in the spring. So that's what we'll be growing in there. So got a lot of work to do. As you can see, you know, when you have these greenhouses, it allows you to keep producing food for your family. And that's why I've invested, because we need some kind of food to keep growing. We want to keep our grocery count down, especially as these food prices continue to inflate, right? So you guys make sure you guys are subscribing to my finance channel too, where, you know, we talk about getting our finances together, what things you can invest in to improve your life. I also have a video on what you can do to kind of, build, a financial, wealth for your family on that channel as well. So that's what I got for you guys today. That's the way things are looking now. Again, I'll give you an update as it starts to get a little bit colder, as those spinaches and lettuces start to sprout in the greenhouses. Let me know what kind of videos you guys would like me to post. That's why I kind of have a hard time posting, because I really don't know what to post. So you let me know what you guys want, and I'll work on that for you. Till next time, guys, signing out. Peace. Have a good Sunday.